Uh, just one second. Let me close
Muta.
let me close the door. Just, um. So we were trying to get to the bottom of like people's brainwashed state,
Yeah,
and
that's a running thing.
it seems like um, and I sent you this whole thing about the there's this entity that is known in the world of the indigenous Canadian or North American Indians
Hmm.
called Wetiko.
They
Wetiko,
usually call it when it's usually referred to as Wendigo.
Wendigo, but Wetiko specifically is more the it's like when people it's some sort of entity or mind virus, I guess they call it, or it's almost like a dibuk that invades people's consciousness to where they basically otherwise intelligent people and people who know what the right thing to do will act against their own best interest. And it's almost like you sit there and you tell them and you bring them evidence and you bring them this and you bring them and you tell them like do you understand that what you're doing is detrimental to yourself and whatever it is, people around you maybe they start, just like justifying what they're doing, or they start to come up with things that are like that fly in the face of what you're saying. And it's almost like, in Russian we say vupor, just like stubbornly to the point of like, again, it's like just talking to a battered wife where it's like they just start explaining why they have a black eye and why they deserve it.
Yeah,
And it just seems like you're talking to a hypnotized, mesmerized, enchanted, and I don't mean that in a good way. It's almost like, like the people I today I said, there was this Austrian guy who mesmerized an entire nation, and it took for a horrible, horrible downfall to happen for those people to come out of that trance, collective trance. So now the question is, when is this downfall going to happen, and what is that going to even look like? And is it going to be so? Does it have to be so catastrophic, like it was? Does it have to look like Dresden with the gargoyles for the people, to wake up? Hopefully not. You know what I'm saying?
explain the gargoyles thing from
Like,
Dresden.
does it have to get to a point where like some sort of entity bombs the crap out of one of the major cities, or in our case, there's like some sort of like it won't. It's not obviously not a. We're not talking about a. We're not in a military war, but does it have to be such a like some kind of a downfall where like cities start burning down or people get fed up with government policy that they just start revolting, or we get into a whole civil war situation. You know, like I mentioned gargoyles. Have you ever seen that famous scene of like Dresden being bombed and like the gargoyles and the statues of the gargoyles are like
The
incinerated.
only
Everything's incinerated
except for the gargoyles.
except for the gargoyles. Yeah. So like, do we have to get to like a gargoyles overlooking an incinerated city situation to for people to just to wake the flip up?
I don't think so, because the that's not what they've mobilized. That they did not invest
Yeah.
in a war machine. They invested in a bio war machine.
Yeah. I know.
Whatever they're going to be doing, they're going to be fighting biologically.
Yeah.
That's what they invested in. That's their army. They know they can't win, gun to gun, man to man.
Yeah.
They know that.
Yeah.
They didn't put their eggs in that basket.
Unless they're in Australia.
I'm talking about us here.
Yeah.
Australia.
Australia is done. It's fallen.
It's at this point, it's up to us whether we want to to us. It's up to us to decide whether or not we feel like they're worth saving.
Yeah.
When I mean us, I mean like Americans
Yeah.
who took it upon themselves to arm themselves and to not submit.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, they were having protests in front of Australian embassies all over the world this weekend. So I guess people are, you know, they feel like these people are worth saving. I don't know. I guess.
I think that their only chance is to I guess I don't know what their only chance is. I know that only criminals have guns in Australia.
Yeah.
Right? And just like that, just like only criminals have guns in the cities in the United States, which, don't allow normal people to have guns in any realistic way.
Yeah.
Maybe the criminals will rise up and become folk heroes.
It's like Batman situation. Except like reverse. Except in this case it'll be Joker who's the hero.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just reading in Sefer Shoftim with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the point after Abimelech.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one wicked judge that ruled Israel for a few years.
Yeah.
And and then after him was Tolia and Yair.
Tolia.
Well, Tolia. You don't know Tolia?
No.
Tolia ruled. He was a judge in Israel for 23 years. I wanted to mention him yesterday because yesterday was.
Why do you say the name Tolia?
Well, how would you say his name?
Can you spell his name?
Sure. Give me a minute. Just a moment. Okay. Okay, we have biblical judges. Please don't yell at me. Okay, we have Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, Devorah, Gideon, and we have Tolia.
Can you spell?
Tav,
Mm-hmm.
Vav, with the Holam. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Lamed,
Mm-hmm.
Komatz,
Mm-hmm.
Ayin. You want to tell me that's not Tolia?
Tola.
It's not Tola.
Tola. It's not Tola. There's no what. There's no.
Tolia.
No, it's Tola.
It's Toila.
Tola.
I call him Tolia. Okay?
See, he's a Russian guy in a Russian restaurant at 2 o'clock in the morning. He's playing on the keyboard that sounds like an accordion, but it's not an accordion. It's a keyboard that has an accordion sound at 2 a.m.
Look,
that's what you've turned this Tanakh figure into.
No. My father has a friend, a good friend named Tolia.
Yeah, Anatoly. He's not. This guy's not Anatoly. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, whatever. But he's either Tolik or Tolia.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So people know Dusia.
Mm-hmm.
They know Tzelia.
Mm-hmm.
He was Tzelia and Ada and Tzelia.
Yeah.
Those are sound like two Russian grandmothers, right? Those are the wives
Those
are the wives of Lamech. Remember early on.
To give you a analogy for the chronology of what you're describing, to quote Charlie Murphy, this is way before Wesley Snipes. This is an era way before Wesley Snipes. We were the blackest Jews in Canaan, in Canaan. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I mean.
Meaning not black at all.
We weren't black. We for sure were not the keyboard player at Odessa At 2 o'clock in the morning, that's for sure.
Okay, well, we're neither. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. But yeah.
You know, we should go. We should go through the description
Mm-hmm.
of what the Gemara says that the Shvatim look like.
Yeah. There's
Not in
people that
this episode because I don't have it prepared.
there's people that
But I know
think
where to
that
look.
Dan, for example, are the Ethiopians, or the Ethiopians think that they're Dan, which I don't know. Shevet Dan.
Listen, some of the lost tribes, okay, for instance, like the Ethiopians, right,
Mm-hmm.
are a are a mixture of and like a group, an envoy of a royal envoy from Yehuda that was sent with the Queen of Sheba on her way back to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And she was escorted by a royal envoy. That royal envoy, they helped her to establish a Jewish community there because she had converted. She had become Jewish during her stay. She was impressed with the culture. Shlomo Melech obviously impressed her with his knowledge, and she was impressed with Torah, and she got to know God. And she became a Jewish woman, and some of the people in her entourage and an entire royal envoy that was sent with her by Shlomo, they established a community there. And the Ethiopian Jews began from that community.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the most straightforward explanation for the legitimate, real Jewish community in Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there may be some offshoots of the tribes that travel to the east, okay, as well, like India and even possibly Afghanistan, okay? But people are making it like these guys represent the majority of the lost tribes, where in reality, these questionable communities, right, are possibly have Israelite heritage, okay? But it would seem the evidence shows, okay, that most of the bulk of the lost tribes, right, which this is very unpopular to say now because it's, anything related to white people is bad, right? And honestly, this was rough even for me because I was full of anger and hate towards Europe in general, specifically Western Europe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I started seeing that the evidence mounting that basically the Western European peoples, right, actually, if the lost tribes are out there, the main body of the lost tribes are located in Western Europe or from Western European descent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's direct from the Gemara and also from the actual oral traditions of the communities in England and France, in Switzerland and Holland, Belgium, even Germany in some cases. Which interesting. You know that what's the biggest ethnicity that exists in the United States? Most people don't know this actually.
Biggest
It's German.
in the
It's not Anglo. It's not Anglo. It's not
you know what
Wasp,
always
it's
used to like annoy me? I remember goes back to what I mentioned the other night about in terms of like when I used to live in Brooklyn versus when we moved to Jersey. When I was in Brooklyn, everybody had a pride about, their heritage, and I remember like again, like, these were kids who were like their parents, let's say, were from Italy or from Ireland or from wherever.
Yeah.
And the kids were born in America. And I used to ask them, so what is, in Brooklyn, it was like, oh, what are you? And they're like, yo, I'm Italian. Yo, I'm Irish. Yo, I'm this. Yo, I'm that. Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico, whatever. And then I remember I moved to Jersey, and I used to ask these white kids what their background was, and like 9 times out of 10, the kid was like, oh, I don't know. I'm like a mutt. I don't know. Who cares? I don't know. I'm like a mutt. Who cares? Oh, like, German, Scottish, I don't know. And I noticed like
Well,
this pattern of just like because and then I realized like these kids that were like here in Jersey, their great grandparents came over and at some point they just like everybody just mixed in and mixed around and whatever it was and they just don't care anymore. They're just American, whatever the hell that means.
it means a lot.
It means a lot, but it's just like I realized how different of a mentality that was at places like even you go whatever like 30 minutes west of Brooklyn or an hour northwest of Brooklyn and you're already in a completely different realm when it comes to these things.
I mean, listen, I'm in support of people seeing themselves as Americans because American is not, it transcends
Yeah,
ethnicity. Do you
but
understand?
what I'm saying is
Um,
like they just didn't care about their
right. I'm not in support of
they,
forgetting, your family
yeah
history.
they just forgot like they're literally telling him I'm a mutt and it's just like I don't know.
It's not. I know that's not a good thing. But
Yeah.
my point for bringing up the German thing is that the majority of the people in the United States, if you single out any single ethnicity, would be people of German descent. But
Yeah.
what's interesting is that that is fairly recent, and it was in the late 1800s that they showed up, and that was because there was people look at Germany as like some kind of like single entity, but
Yeah.
Germany is made up of like 300 city-states,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
basically, and they were always at war with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just like Italy was. That's why you get Machiavelli, the prince.
yeah,
Not the
okay,
rapper
and
Machiavelli, but Machiavelli.
yeah, they did not consider themselves like one people,
Yeah, no. That's a recent
and
thing. That's a very recent thing.
it's a very recent thing. And the Germans who could not get along, who were different than the ones who are in Germany now, right, or who
Yeah.
remained there, the ones that we saw from World War II, those were not the Germans that came here. The Germans that came here are literally a different people.
Yeah. True.
It would seem, and I've seen some, if you studied like the places, like the actual like cultures, where the Germans that are in the United States are from, right? Like we're in Germany, like their cultures, their cities, like the differences between the way they did religion, the way they viewed life or community, and the ones that were left behind in Germany was very stark.
Yeah.
Okay, you can see like these are different people. Okay, fine, they spoke a similar language, but at the same time, like for instance, Jews
Mm-hmm.
speak Yiddish, which is basically medieval German,
Yeah.
with like 9% of a couple of Hebrew and Aramaic words thrown in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's also we speak a German language. We're not Germans, right? We're not the same.
Yeah.
So my point is that those Germans who are here, for the most part, not completely. There's never anything completely, but for the most part, it looks like there seems to be some serious evidence that they are from Israelite descent.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. And what's interesting is that when I was saying about Western Europe, it would seem that the peoples who migrated from or immigrated from their homes in Western Europe or Central Europe, and they ended up here, were always kind of cultural or semi-ethnic outcasts
Yeah.
from their home countries. You understand?
Yeah.
They couldn't find their history, their culture was they were always different
Yep.
than the people that they lived among.
Yeah.
And they found ways to collect in these like outlier zones,
Yeah.
which the United States was. So you have this collection of basically cultural, I don't want to say refugees, but rejects, you could say,
Yeah.
from Western Europe,
Mm-hmm.
who ended up in the United States and in Australia and places like this. Okay, Canada as well. Okay, and it looks like these particular cultures, which left their home are the ones who seem to have the most connection to Hebrew ancestry.
Interesting.
Even in their own oral histories, their own oral tradition.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, I was reading, what is it, Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean, and you start to realize that basically it's entirely possible that a third of the population of Spain today could be Jewish.
And Portugal too.
And Portugal, and like basically the entire Iberian Peninsula. And the crazy part is that all these like so-called explorers, Cortez, Pizarro, Schmizarro, Columbus, not Cortez, but a bunch of these guys, either they were like, I mean, if they weren't Jewish, they were friends with all these, you know, astronomer people who basically were learning Kabbalah and were making a ton of money and funding, like the entirety of the exploration of this continent that you and I are sitting on right now was funded by bazillions of dollars of Jewish money from Spain.
You want to hear something crazy?
And then these people were just expelled on Tisha B'Av and they had to leave. That we know.
Listen, can I tell you something crazy?
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be really popular with the woke crowd, okay?
Okay.
So, Thomas Jefferson, the forefathers, right? The early, first of all, the early Quakers, you know, the Pilgrims and all these guys. They came to North America looking for, first of all, they thought that they were from the tribe of Ephraim. They say it openly.
Mm-hmm.
And so did Thomas Jefferson and Washington and Benjamin Franklin also consider themselves Hebrews. Okay? They kept it on the down low, but in their memoirs, they spoke about it. Thomas Jefferson sent expeditions looking for barbarian, which means Indian, which means Native American tribes, who are their brethren. And they describe them as fair-skinned, blue-eyed, with black kind of like Chinesey hair.
Yeah.
They had like very interesting kind of. So they were looking for these tribes of Indians who they had a history, they had information, were earlier Israelite expeditions from in the past several thousand years that made it in stages to North America. Okay, so they were looking for these tribes, and apparently they found them, and that's a big secret. That there were tribes, even in the United States, that were considered Native American Indians, okay, you know, in the vernacular, and who were white.
Yeah.
Okay, but they won't tell you that now. They will never teach that. You have to like dig through, and like you got to read the memoirs. You got to read the Federalist Papers, and you got to read the memoirs of Thomas Jefferson, and all that kind of stuff. And you got to read the memoirs of George Washington. I actually got halfway through that. I don't feel good about not finishing it, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. You will not believe what you will learn, and it's out there, right? You will be shocked. Like you'll be like, how the hell did they not teach us? Why isn't anybody teaching us this stuff?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to hide it.
Yeah. No, I just realized that. I just realized like why would
that don't read.
I just realized like why would they like you know not tell us about the fact that you know they're teaching us stuff about. Okay, you want to teach about the exploration of the New World? That's fine. Tell us about who funded these ships. Don't let Farrakhan tell us about that, because that he did tell us about. Like Farrakhan, the only reason I even know remotely of this stuff was because Farrakhan tried to put, you know, say, well, Jews funded the slave ships and all this kind of stuff and whatever it is. And he's not wrong, but it's like, why do I have to find out from Farrakhan? Why am I not finding out?
Jews, you're doing Farrakhan's work, which is not true, by the way.
I know. What I'm saying is, why do I even have to hear anything remotely about that, even if it's partially true, not true, half true, whatever it is?
Unfortunately, there were Jews
who
were part of the slaver business, but they were not they were by far the minority.
I'm just saying, how can such a glaring piece of history be omitted in our history classes in school? Just like, how can they not tell us that, when they teach us about the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Babylonians, we learned about all these peoples, the ancient Rome, not a mention of a Beit HaMikdash, not a mention that there was a Shekhinah in the world, that even that those civilizations tried to destroy or did destroy or whatever. Not it's
Because,
like it's almost like we
dude,
didn't freaking exist.
dude, can I
Do you understand what I mean?
just, I understand what you're saying.
There's a
This is what
Josephus. There's a Gemara. You have the only way to learn these things is if you're majoring in Jewish studies at university. You're not going to learn this stuff in 10th grade history class. Why not?
Right. The most ancient and the most continually studied documents available to mankind is the Talmud, entirely ignored by academia
It's astounding, dude. It's almost like we didn't exist.
That's what
I'm
they're
telling you.
trying to do. Listen. When what was it, Hadrian, right? When he changed the name of the city of Jerusalem to
Aelia Capitolina.
Aelia Capitolina, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Aelia Capitolina, yeah.
What was he trying to do? He was trying to erase Jewish history. It
Yeah.
started back then.
Yeah.
It's been the same tactic since fucking shitty, stupid Hadrian.
Like, why should I find out that possibly the reason that possibly the reason that Columbus left in August 1492 I didn't know that it was Tisha B'Av that day.
Yeah.
And he left on freaking, he was basically expelled. And he was funded by people who were expelled.
He wasn't expelled. Okay, he was funded.
He was funded by. He was a Portuguese Jew.
Isabella.
He's a Portuguese Jew.
Dude, Columbus is not a Jew.
He was a Portuguese Jew. There's a very strong case to be made.
That's a rumor. I don't think it's true.
If CNN they wrote an article, if they wrote one thing that's true, that could possibly be true.
I've read pretty much everything there is to read on that topic of him being a Jew. It doesn't look like that's the case, but everybody else around him was a Jew.
Not only that, he was writing letters to his brother from the ship with Siyata Deshmaya. Little, how we write BSD.
It wasn't Siyata Deshmaya. It was Latin. It was Latin letters which could be interpreted as a Latinized version of possibly Siyata Deshmaya.
I'm saying, even if he wasn't a Jew, he was taking a lot of stuff from us. He had the brach. I'm telling you, just when I found all these things out as a 30 or person in my early 30s, reading either Beryl Wine's Jewish history stuff or like the Gemara, I'm just like, I became incensed. I was like, I want my tax dollars back for this freaking public education system.
There are entire social sciences that are dedicated to making sure that there's no connection made between Western European history and Hebrew migrations.
It's astounding.
Okay, they created an entire ethnic like group called the Indo-European.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous European, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Europe was not inhabited until probably it only began slightly in the last 4,000 years, because it was not a temperate climate. It was too cold.
Can you give me 1 second? Sorry, man. Hold on a second. Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so in North and Western Europe, it was too cold until recently for anybody to realistically live there in any significant size, populations. Okay, like 3,500, 4,000 years.
Yeah.
Okay. There were gradual migrations from Central Asia.
Yeah.
But even those migrations from like the steppes of Russia. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not even all the way till Central Asia. Okay, so it would seem that people who ended up in the British Isles, right, which is the most western, arguably the most western
Yeah.
point of northern Europe, northwestern Europe. They came in gradual migrations from peoples who were part of the Scythian Empire.
Yeah.
The greatest overlooked empire in talk about like covering up history.
Yeah.
Okay, when you read some of these, like,
Yeah.
you read Herodotus, you read some of these Roman historians, you read manuscripts from Egypt, and you have the Scythians. They call themselves the Saka.
Yeah.
Or Isaka.
Well, these were the people that predated the Russians, basically, right? That's what I heard.
No, they say that many of the Russians descended from the Scythians,
Yeah.
or they were in the Scythian
In
area.
Russian, they're called Scythi.
Scythi, right. Russians like to connect themselves to the Scythi.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the case. It would seem that the Scythi, even though they lived periodically, they kind of roamed near the steppes of Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, for the most part, migrated west. The majority of Western Europe, okay, and Northern Europe are Scythian peoples.
Yeah.
Okay, Scythia. There were many different ethnicities and groups and tribes that made up the Scythians. Okay,
Yeah.
but they were extremely formidable, and the Scythians came on the scene essentially shortly after the lost tribes, when the tribes of Israel were kicked out of Israel by the Assyrians. Okay, all of that is synchronized.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they call themselves Saka.
Yeah.
We have pasukim that say that they will call themselves by Yitzhak, by
Interesting.
Isaac.
Interesting.
Okay, dude, there's so much. I mean, the stuff we're talking about is not even scratching the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So basically, there are entire social sciences that are dedicated to making sure people don't make these connections.
It's crazy.
Okay. So anyway, the point is that it would seem that the history of America is much older and much more complex than we know. We don't know. We are not. People are so. It's unbelievable what people don't know.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So listen to this. I'm sure you've heard of the United States or the North America being visited many times over the past several thousand years, right?
Yeah.
Like officially it was Columbus, right? But then we read about the Chinese in 312
Mm-hmm.
and Leif Erikson before that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who actually, they found his settlement in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay? And also possibly the Knights Templar
Mm-hmm.
in the 1200s as well, okay? And, who made their way here. So people think that America and Europe are separated by this, like, giant abyss that everybody was scared of, nobody ever ventured into.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, do you know about a chain of islands called the Azores? Have you
Yeah.
heard of this place?
Yes.
Do you know where it's located?
I think it's like it's at the middle of Atlantic, no?
It's in the middle of the Atlantic.
Off of Portugal, but like really middle of the Atlantic.
Yeah, it's 1,000. It's like something like 1,700 kilometers off the coast of Portugal. That's the island that's closest to Portugal, and it extends further. And then it's like 2,000, barely more than 2,000 kilometers from North America.
Yeah.
Okay, there are other islands between them and North America. So you're saying it's not possible that somebody knew how to navigate
Of course.
this chain, this, like, kind of like jumping from stone to stone.
Of
right?
course.
People have known how to get across the Atlantic for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It may have not been the majority of people.
Yeah.
It could have been a securely guarded secret, because you have this entire continent.
A continent with resources and gold and all these kind of things. Yeah.
Right, where you could hide stuff, where you could escape to, where you could. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Israel knew about it.
Yeah.
Okay, there's this guy, this is scholar, historian, if I can just remember his name, last name Singer, I believe.
Yeah.
Who talks? He believes that that King David set up an empire vaster than we can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And he had ships. He had a naval empire that scoured the globe, that colonized areas all over the world. And Shlomo continued that in his time,
Mm-hmm.
which would make sense since the entire world came to Shlomo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Shlomo sent expeditions all over the world to get material to bring for the Bet HaMikdash.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a nice little hint. Okay. Shlomo sent mining colonies all over the world. Okay, and he mined iron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what's iron? Barzel, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a coincidence that Brazil has the biggest iron mines in the world.
It's crazy, right?
I'm sure that's a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
of course.
So there's just a mountain. There's just, dude, the size of the piles of anecdotal facts like this.
Yeah.
When you add up, they dwarf all the stupid shit that the linguists and these ethnicists, people who study ethnicities, who came up with Indo-Europeans.
Yeah.
They got nothing.
It's astounding.
Okay, so look, in short, if you look at Europe, what is Europe made up of? Either Esav,
Mm-hmm.
Yefet,
Yeah.
or Israel, the lost tribes. Okay, that's who populates Europe in general, and no one even disputes that.
Yeah.
What I mean is, no one disputes that even from the Torah scholar community. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not sure how we got into this, but I'm just saying that
we started out talking about the
Yiftach.
well, the North American tribes who have the concept of what was the word? I ordered the book today about it.
Concept.
No, just the idea of like people being, having this mind virus and not being able to
Okay.
get over it.
Okay, so what is a mind virus?
Oh, we got into the Germans. I was talking about Dresden, and doesn't it have to happen?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we can get back on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remembered a really interesting metaphor, which I'm going to say, and then tie into what Bart Zadok was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, this is a Star Trek episode.
Oh my god.
This time from Star Trek Enterprise. With Scott Bakula, he was Captain Archer. It was like
Scott
4 seasons.
Bakula.
Pretty good.
You mean the guy from what was that show that he
Quantum Leap?
My god.
Yeah. That was a cool show, but yeah. So he was the captain of the first Enterprise. Okay, so there's one episode where he finds this hatchery, this nursery for this alien race. Okay, which are kind of like insectoid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They look like big grasshoppers.
Yeah.
And so they give the children, they reproduce in hatcheries.
Yeah.
Now but they're very, very highly advanced technologically. So they developed this thing where it's a security measure, where if anybody goes near the hatchery, right, they're sprayed, especially if it's an alien entity. They're immediately sprayed with some kind of, substance, which takes that potential enemy and turns them into a protector of the hatchlings.
Mm-hmm.
it does something to their to their nervous system, to their brain, where the only thing that potential alien entity can think about is to protect the hatchlings at all costs.
Yeah.
It turns them into a slave zombie.
That's crazy.
Okay? So I thought that was interesting because when Bart Sadek was saying last night, right, in the share, he was talking about entities, mazikin,
Yeah.
okay? And he was describing the way that they feed off of us.
Yeah.
Okay? And he describes them as indigenous entities in this world, right? That they look for energy signatures. That's how they identify their prey.
Yeah.
Okay? So they see vulnerabilities in people.
Yeah.
For instance, like, if you look at the Shulchan Aruch, right?
Mm-hmm.
It tells you not to do stuff.
Yeah.
The reason it tells you not to do that stuff is because that stuff leaves you
drained,
vulnerable.
You know what I find interesting?
Vulnerable to
He mentioned in the shir that he even said that he's like, let's say you're a guy, right? You're a man, whatever. And you do stuff, let's say if you're 20 years old, he goes, you may not feel it when you're 20, but you for sure feel it when you're 40. And dude, you know how true, you have no idea how true I found that to be.
I know exactly
when I was
how true that
20,
is.
it was ain't no thing but a chicken wing on a string. But then the closer I got to 40, even my mid 30s, you already start to like feel it physiologically, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, whoa, and I'm just like, it can't be just the age thing only, right? But
Right.
you realize it's a spiritual, like there's something that happens spiritually the older you get, and it affects you when you do that, you know?
Right. So but before he said that, he was saying that these entities, basically, he calls the Mazikin are like, they are like what we would consider spiritual. Basically, I'm learning not just from Bart Zabuk, but from a few other rabbis. They believe that spiritual is essentially talking about the tachyon universe.
Okay, which is what?
Have you heard of particles called tachyons?
I've heard this term, but what, I don't know what it is.
They are faster than light moving particles.
Okay.
So we're made of slower than light moving particles in terms of speed of vibration and movement. Okay? So we resonate below the speed of light, and the entities what we consider spiritual resonate faster than speed of light.
Yeah, he was mentioning, he's like, imagine you're this two-dimensional being in the magazine or a piece of paper.
He was using the flatland.
Yeah, the flat landers,
right.
and then he's like, there's a thing that comes in from above, and then you're like, whoa, what the, and then you have no concept of above and below. You're just like, the thing appears and disappears at will.
Right.
In your realm or whatever. So.
Right. So the spiritual universe that is filled, everything is made of these tachyon particles, which I'm sure there's a variety of them, okay? But basically tachyon, it seems, if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. The tachyons, either Alex or Denise, please correct me. But
there's more people than those two people, as much as I'm grateful for those two people.
Yeah, there's Leah Tal. She's also listening. That's we have a third listener. So if any of you can,
we have way more than that. But yeah, these are the people that comment, as far as we know.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So basically, tachyons are just a general term for particles that move faster than the speed of light. Okay. And also there's neutrinos. You ever heard of neutrinos?
Yes.
That's another type of hypothetical. No, it's not hypothetical. They've proven them, essentially. They've collected neutrinos. But physicists talk about entire universes made up of neutrinos as well. I'm not sure where that fits into the category. A neutrino might be a type of tachyon. I'm not sure. Okay? But the point is that it would seem that the Kabbalists who are studying scientific language, they're identifying what seems to be a match for what is described in Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And that would be related to these tachyons.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, Rabbi Baxter was all about that.
Yeah.
Okay. He was, trying to create, in a sense, trying to find the proper vessels for the light, which science is discovering, but they don't know. They don't know they don't know what vessel to put it in. They're finding truth, and the vessels are inadequate to contain their findings, which is primary reason why they're having such trouble unifying everything. But the Kabbalah that we have is information from the future, and it's like the vessel. It's an entire framework of the proper vessels in order to fit in what quote unquote scientific observation is finding. Okay, so it just has to be matched up correctly. Anyway, so it would seem that they think that the tachyon, the quote unquote tachyon universe, is one and the same with what we would call Yetzirah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a fourth spatial dimension.
Mm-hmm. Which we supposedly, ostensibly don't have access to.
We function in it. We don't perceive it.
Yeah, well, I'm saying what that's what I mean by the access. Like we have no perception of it.
Yeah.
But we're in it at the same time.
Yeah. So basically, you could think of it as like we're like chunks of like imagine, this is how I think of it. Like imagine you have some kind of cream, like hot cream, like milk or something like that, but it has like chunks of stuff floating in it and on top of it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes cream congeals, right? And you have like these clumps. We're like the clumps floating in this cream, right? And we're in the clumpiness, and we don't perceive the outer cream environment. Yeah. The more liquidy, whatever. I'm not sure that's a great metaphor.
I get more or less. Yeah.
Okay.
What you're conveying.
Yeah. So we are embedded in it. You could put it that way. That's actually what Bach says.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Rabbi Bach's of blessed memory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did I, help me, Greg, how did I get onto the tachyons?
You got onto the tachyons because again, we're
animals,
talking,
right, the mazikin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We're trying to figure out why these people seem hypnotized and how you can get them out of it. That's essentially.
Okay. Right. So there are entities which move freely from the tachyon universe back and forth. They operate and they have access to our realm, our dimension. Okay, we don't have access to them in perception.
After you finish explaining this, I'm going to ask you a cardinal question.
Yeah.
No, I'll ask it of you.
Okay. So they feed off of the primary currency of existence. Okay, it's called nefesh.
Yeah.
Nefesh is the life force of the entire universe, and it's the currency. It's the primary currency of all living creatures, whether in this world or in all the other spiritual worlds. Okay, and they see us as nefesh cows, life force cows, cattle. They use us in that sense. Okay, so they corral us with things that we like. Like for instance, like a cow likes a certain type of grass, right? So you push it into a patch of land where it's going to sit there and it's going to eat the grass, completely unaware of things around it. You're going to build a fence around it, right? It may notice it, it may not. It's not terribly concerned with the corral fence because it's enjoying the grass, and it's being left alone and just kind of like lying around and just being a cow, whatever that means. Okay, but at the same time, why are we doing that? Because we want to take its milk and then eventually murder it and eat its rotting flesh. Correct? Is Is that not what we do? Is that not literally the exact truth?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we are used in a similar way by these creatures, these entities. With the Mazikin, they are entities that are somewhere between the Yetziratic and our realm. Okay? There's always like gray areas, There's always like, you know what I mean? There's gradual like steps, gradations between the tachyon universe and our universe. Okay, and so those things exist somewhere in that general space. Okay, and they find us by our energy signatures. If we keep the halachot, then to use a term that Bart Zadok uses, we are calibrated to not be victims to these animals, to these creatures. Okay, if we transgress, sin, to use this term, right? What we're really doing is we're making ourselves vulnerable to attack by these vampiric type things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they establish lifelong relationships with us because they don't want to kill us right away. They want to suck.
So what you're saying is the people
energy gradually over time.
So what you're saying is that the people that seem to be the ones that are, in this whole process, the Shmovit process, the people who seem to be the ones that are, so to speak, mesmerized, hypnotized, they're the ones that are, for whatever reason, susceptible to these guys. Like you, it just seems like people like you and I are not. And you can't,
no, I mean, we're not as much.
And not as much now, but it almost seems like it doesn't even matter if you could always say, well, if you do mitzvot and protect yourself, then you can be not susceptible. But I feel like it's not mitzvot. I feel like it's something else that you need to do to protect yourself. And I feel like
consciousness.
it's a consciousness, and it's from what I've seen experientially with people, it could even be people who are nothing to do with Shabbat or kosher or anything of the sort, but who are elevated in some way, somehow elevated, whether they're a Jew or non-Jew, and that's what's protecting them.
You were describing a buddy of yours. I don't want to get too much into him, but last time we were talking, a buddy of yours who was having some lady issues, okay? Now, the type of person, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Even if I'm wrong, just let me go anyway, because I am describing a type of person that exists.
Okay.
So you have a type of person who, you said, like, he told you, why are you putting politics and religion together? They have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
So these are people who they are cultural people.
Yeah.
Do you understand? There's one of the major rifts or chasms between Balchuvas and the Frum community is that Frum means culturally religious. It's an ethnic cultural practice.
But I can't say by him that's completely the case. But I hear what you're saying, though.
Nothing is ever completely the case. I'm speaking in generalities.
Yeah.
Okay. So, which means that most people who get up and they go to shul, and they do everything. They wear the full regalia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, and they pride themselves on being simple, with simple faith, and they just go and they do, and this kind of thing, and they go to work, they have their shops, and it's like this kind of like assembly line life.
Yeah.
And they don't cultivate a consciousness to understand how what they are doing applies or affects the world itself. They're not interested in it.
I noticed that.
Okay, so that mindset itself might be what's making them vulnerable.
Can I ask you the second
part? I know
part?
a lot of people are going to argue that no, it's that mindset which will ultimately keep them safe.
Can I ask you the second
I don't think so.
the second part of the question, which is, now that we know that children are being involved in this process, which essentially renders itself as, Moloch, whatever you want to call it, sacrifice, is it safe to say that process gives those Mazikim power. It's almost like the people that are forcing us to take this crap, or forcing society to take this crap, and little kids, are they know that these Mazikim, they are using this Mazikim to brainwash people, and the act of child sacrifice helps in brainwashing more and more people by way of this
Yes,
power. By way of this
of
power.
course, of course. The more they get
It's
people to
so crazy.
cooperate with their agenda, the
Yeah.
more vulnerable the people get
Yeah.
to further attack. Of course.
No, but meaning just specifically this kids, the 5 to 11-year-old whole thing that helps along that entity, these entities, and yeah,
Of
they
course, that's the look.
it's
What
like
we're
it's like a
witnessing,
self-feeding cycle, It's crazy.
exactly, and it gets worse. And the more atrocious the thing that they convince people to do,
Yeah.
the bigger the payoff, and the further emboldened they are to make even the next step
That's
even
why I
bolder than
feel
the
like
previous.
we're getting upset at the parent. The parents are the horrible parents. I feel like it's the parents don't even are I don't want to say absolved, but it's almost like the parents have been entranced into, you know, it's almost like they don't feel like they even have a free will at that point, you know?
Right,
They're just
right.
giving their kids over to this feeding
Look,
frenzy.
look. Back in the day, people were aware of entities. They were aware of the Mazikin. They saw them. They actually experienced them. They were conscious of them,
Yeah.
and they knew their names. They were familiar with what was going on. Okay, people, listen. When we read Tanakh, especially Shoftim, right?
Yeah.
There's a pattern there all the time. Back to the Baalim and the Ashterot and all these awful, little lowercase g gods, right? Constantly falling back into worshiping those things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they knew exactly who they were, and they recognized what they were doing by name. You understand?
Yeah.
The difference nowadays is that people they're much lower consciousness beings than those of previous generations. Okay, much lower, because people nowadays they realize, or they should realize at least, that they're not worshiping God.
Dude, can I tell you something? That when I was still in Israel during the beginning of this whole smacks process, the first thing that literally came to my mind as soon as I saw Israelis running brainlessly, mindlessly to take this stuff, before even the majority of the world, before Americans were being forced to do it, because Israel was like the first, the first experiment, and it still is. And I was automatically like, oh my goodness, this is just, I was always wondering since I became Baltruva, like, how, you hear the stories of the Avodah Zarah and how people ran to worship this statue or something, or statues came alive and this. And I was always wondering, is that even possible? How could people have gone to that stuff? And then you see it in action and you're like, holy moly. And then you
But
hear like,
it's a little different in response to what you just said.
it's
I
different,
want
but
to.
you,
So,
you know,
no,
you
but
hear a girl sitting at my Shabbos table talking about how she said Hallel.
I
And I
know, but
joked about, did you say a bracha or no bracha? Are you Haredi or are you, like,
there are, dude.
holy
When I was
crap.
reading about Yiftach before Yiftach came on the scene,
Yeah,
right? When they were where Bnei Israel were being attacked by Ammon, by the Bnei Ammon, right?
yeah,
So one of the things that, why did God allow that to happen, is because even the Pesukim say they were worshiping this Baal and that Baal, and the Baal
yeah.
of the Ammonites and the Baal of Moab and the Baal of Edom, and I don't remember everybody that was discussed there. And it even said at the end, he said, and not even concurrently with worshiping Hashem. They abandoned Hashem entirely, which means that there were periods of time when people worshiped these entities and God. You understand? Like it was kind of like it was some kind of weird hybrid situation where, so there are levels of this. Now, what I wanted to say before was that you have these people who nowadays they don't know that they're worshiping the Baalim and Moloch and Ashtaroth and all that kind of stuff. They don't know the names, and they don't know that there are these entities.
Yeah.
The one level of consciousness that they do have access to, which they are transgressing, we could say, is that they know they're not worshiping Hashem.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily think they're worshiping some kind of like spiritual entity, but they do have enough consciousness, or they should have enough consciousness to realize they're not worshiping
No, but they
Hashem.
think they are. They think that Hashem gave this stuff as like a miracle, whatever. Drug.
No, so I understand, but that I'm just saying that seems to be a symptom of extremely low, extremely lazy consciousness. It comes from fear. You understand? And that might right there might be how people got into the Baal worship, even back in those days, right? Where instead of facing this evil in its face, instead of facing it, they would say, it must be Hashem wants us to get involved in this. It's from Hashem.
Yeah. Maybe
they thought that the Baalim were from Hashem. Like,
not only that, they'll say, every rabbi says the big rabbi says to take it. Every doctor says to take, as if even if that wasn't a lie, which it is a lie,
so they never did the work.
Yeah.
They relied on the flimsiest of all.
It's like it's like a massive spiritual outsourcing. They're outsourcing their brain, they're outsourcing their neshama, they're outsourcing their emunah. It's just one giant outsource.
Right, they're outsourcing exactly. So we're criticizing them, but what should people do rather than what we're seeing? Here's what I think. I don't know. Okay? But this seems to me that if somebody is seeing something happening, right? If everybody had a personal dialogue with God, right? And they would ask the question, like, God, is this the right thing? I know, whatever, that we got this rabbi over here, and he's our supposed community leader.
Yeah.
That's all very well and good. But now I'm speaking to you. Please send me information. Show me whether or not this is the right thing. I don't want to hear things through an intermediary. You tell me, is this right? If every single person did that, no one would ever go near that damn shop.
For sure.
Because God would send them the information.
Yeah, they would get like an intuitive
God had right. Most people, and I'm not excluding myself, they ignore their personal communication system with God.
Listen, Rav Kook said, the closer we get to Mashiach, he said nevuah, some level of nevuah would come back to Am Israel. It's just going to be a matter of us realizing that that's there, and having just realizing that we can tap into some of that, if not completely.
If people were like on everything that they encountered, every step of the way in their life, God, should I go to the cleaners right now, or should I go get my tire fixed?
Yeah.
What should I do first? I need the guidance. I don't know what to do. Dude, do you know? I'm not the only one. There's so many people who are like, dude, I know what you mean. Like I do
know.
that, and
I know.
Like 5 minutes later,
I've tried to cultivate
it's clear
that.
what I need to do.
I've tried to cultivate that. What you're describing, it's something that I've been actively working on, especially since I met my Rav, who he himself has worked on. He's a Breslov Baal Tshuva. He's worked on it, obviously by way of his Bodedut, the whole personal prayer in the seclusion, the forest, whatever you want to call it. But it's something that he really gave it over to me that's possible, Yeah. And I saw him actually in action in terms of like, whatever, he was like advising me on certain things, and there was just like certain aspects that I would tell him something, and then like there was no way that he would know certain things about a certain person that I'm talking about, who I kind of describe in passing, and he just goes right into, he opens a whole can of worms. Then I was just like, wow, how the hell does he know this? He's not the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's not the Baba Sali, but he's cultivated that ability, which any Jew, if they want, can
Any
cultivate.
person.
Any person, but especially Jews. Jews,
Tana, if you,
we're on a,
it's
we're on
Tana
a,
de, in
yeah,
Tana de Be'eliyahu. It says
yeah,
literally any man,
yeah,
woman, free man or slave, Jew or
yeah,
Gentile
yeah,
can cultivate the Ruach HaKodesh, the
yeah,
Spirit,
yeah.
the Holy Spirit.
So, so here's my question, man. Like, what is it going to take to get these people who are clearly in
I'm sorry,
tra
that might have been Perky the Rabbi Eliezer or
yeah.
Tana de Be'eliyahu. I'm not sure which one said that. Sorry.
No,
Continue.
so no, no, well, I'll look it up. No, but because so like how do you how will like what is going to be the end game? Again, I don't want to see. I hope we don't have this downfall and incineration of cities. So what is going to be the catalyst to drag people out of their just collective entrancement?
Well,
What's going to have to happen?
Rabbi Kessin, actually, you sent me a lecture, his
Yeah,
most recent lecture.
yeah,
I listened to part of it
yeah.
earlier, a couple of days ago,
Hmm.
and he talks about God bypassing the system that he created
Yeah.
and just accessing the
The
Mita of Rachamim.
Rachamim. Yeah, it's like it's basically there's like enough din that's exacted. We filled it up. We're good, and now he just has to override the system.
He has to for his own sake,
Yeah.
because I don't know if I'm what I'm saying is correct on this particular thing, but he realizes that we're never going to get to where we need to get to through the system. There has to be just God be like, all right, like kind of enough, and just bypasses it
Yeah.
to give us a break.
Meaning show us the MS of like all the evil that they're doing to the point where
I don't know how it's going to happen.
to
No, we need something more than that.
listen,
Because the MS is being shown.
no, but
He's
no,
not
but
doing any good.
no, but can I tell you something? Like again, I think I told you this yesterday. Like a friend of mine who vehemently disagrees with me about this product, but at least now, like he's in America and he's been roaming around Manhattan for his work, and he sees the wackadoodleness of people who are afraid of this new thing that's coming out that's killed exactly 0 people. There was a meme. Alec Baldwin has killed more people than this new thing.
Yeah.
Skeletor runs away, whatever, and so my friend sees that, and then he went on further to say, I admit that coercion is horrible, and I can see that this is heading to a very horrible place in society. This is not going to end well. He said that. My friend said that. So right when he did, I kind of made the mistake of taking stuff to the next level and bringing him more information, to which he obviously kind of blocked and whatever. Not blocked, but he kind of explained it away. So I said to myself, after that the whole thing, I was like, you know what? This guy is waking up slowly on his own, and that's basically it. I don't have to do anything anymore. All I have to do is just be present, to be a friend. You know what I mean? Like just to be whatever it is. Just be present, be a friend, relate with him on the myriad of levels that we already relate on, which we can find common ground, whatever it is, humor, schmoomer, whatever, just general politics. Let's say there's things where he and I agree on 95% of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a Ben Shapiro thing. So, okay, so that's fine, and I feel like there's something's gonna happen to where they're gonna uncover what these son of a bitches have done on just a administrative, functional, whatever you want to call it, level, to where the people will say, okay, now we get it. We understand that the product is being sold by people what is it? The people selling the product speak to the veracity of the product, which is garbage. and then they'll start making they'll make those connections eventually. They'll make that connection. It has to be on that uh what you would call just derech hateva way. It can be. It doesn't have to be the marshmallow guy. It seems.
No, I disagree entirely.
Okay.
Couldn't disagree more.
Okay.
Um,
I'd like to hear why you think it has to be the marshmallow thing.
because it's been a long time since all the information has been publicly available and easy.
It, it,
But
but clearly,
dude,
people are living in an alternate reality.
you didn't
No,
you didn't give me like even
I know.
even
I
a
want to
quarter
hear
of a
what you want to
second.
say. I'm just. It just seems like
You're
yeah.
immediate. You're just immediately like you're like that Russian guy in the panel who attacks the panelists.
Yeah.
Right? So just
Украина, Украина, ну даже
hear,
это Putin.
hear me
Украина.
out the whole thing and then
Yeah.
attack it.
Okay. No, I'm not attacking. I'm just okay.
Okay, so let's go back to the cattle in the corral, right? So the cattle get used to eating what they're eating, right? They're being led around to places where they can get a little satisfaction with a little bit of grass that they enjoy to eat, okay? And it seems like they're generally being kept safe from, predators that periodically, attack them and tear them to shreds. This is the appearance that this is why cattle allow themselves to be led around. Yeah. This is why they begin to trust shepherds, okay? Because there's a certain sense of, they feel like they're being protected and taken care of, okay? They're not exactly conscious of why that's happening. They don't want to think about it, okay? Why is this being done? Okay? They're not thinking too much into it, okay? So they're not prepared or aware of the idea that, that slaughterhouse is in their future. Yeah. Okay. So there are cases where sometimes, and this is really horrible, but they're like when cattle is set on fire, like when you have like herds of cattle, yeah, and they get set on fire and they don't run, they don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. The normal reaction of any living creature would be to run around or try to like roll around or whatever. But they were so attached to their caretakers and to the spot where they live that they, even when they're on fire, they're not going to run.
Yeah.
Okay. Because mentally speaking, they're so conquered.
Yeah.
And they all they need is mental relief. They want to be released from thinking, from taking responsibility for their own safety.
That's what I've noticed. Yeah.
So the longer people are in that state of mind, the deeper they get into that state of mind. Okay? So these entities that we were discussing, they treat us the same way. You understand? We feed them, so they feed us just enough to keep us kind of bred, for the harvesting, when it's time to siphon off of us. You know what I mean? Yeah. If they killed us off right away, then they couldn't sustain themselves. They need to keep us alive on a certain level just to keep sucking energy out of us. Okay? They can't let us become too open in our consciousness to understand what's going on. Okay? Yeah. So they find this like sweet spot to keep us in, where we're alive, yeah, and we're conscious, just conscious enough to keep ourselves alive. Okay? They surround us, bombard us with all sorts of like stressful things, and then they create a little tiny niche where we can go to kind of get away from all those horrors which they are supplying.
Yeah.
And then that way they can keep us in that one little spot where it's comfortable for them.
It's literally like rats in that in the maze, like in the little experiment maze,
Right.
Where there's a little nook where the rat finds, like the little water spout and then the cheese thing, and then there's that other place where the rat just runs around in a maze, not knowing what the hell is going on, and he's like just freaking out. And then there's maybe another spot where the rat might get like electrocuted by something, and then he figures out, okay, I can't go there, you know, and he just goes back to
Absolutely.
the spout and the cheese, and then
Right.
it's just like the cycle.
Exactly. So that's the environment that the rat is in. So it's obviously going to choose the least painful place
Yeah,
to be,
path of least what's it called? Resistance. Yeah.
the path of least resistance, and the least, the least scariest, the most. It's
Yeah.
going to go looking for the most comfort when it's
Yeah.
constantly bombarded
Yeah.
with anxiety, with
It
tension and
and it's
anxiety.
not going to be able
Okay.
to face, like the thing that's going to actually might release it from that freaking, purgatorial hell.
It's not even. It's not. It's not. There. A rat. The difference between a rat and a person is that at least we have the
We have
ability
seichel.
to What did you say?
Yeah. No, we have the discernment. We have the seichel. The.
We have potentially
Yeah.
the ability to reach out to the one, you can't even say being,
Yeah.
to the creator,
Yeah.
to get us out of that situation.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's not the person conducting the experiment. It's the entity that controls the people that are controlling the experiment. It's the
You
one
mean
that
God.
can override the experiment.
Right. You got to be aware that there is an overrider
Yeah.
of the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
So you have to turn to the overrider to say, please get me away from these evil beasts.
But here's
In
my
other muscles.
but here's my question, man. You keep talking about the whole thing of the it has to be the marshmallow, but we know that in the Purim story, if we're talking about a Molech, in the Purim story, everything was unraveled. Not only was it derech hateva, it
And where do
took
we end up?
it took no, it took a long time. No, but this is yeah, but even Rabbi Kessin is saying it came back, and we have to replay that story again, and it has to, it's replaying.
No, but just hang on a second.
You understand what
Okay,
I'm saying?
first of all, it's not replaying. Okay? When we had a certain, let's talk about certain redemptions, right? So with Moshe Rabbeinu, right, the redemption from Egypt, that's very much connected to the redemption from Amalek in the Purim story, okay? Because both of them are connected to accepting the Torah. See? So basically, when in Yetzias Mitzrayim, we had Moshe Rabbeinu and Hashem, okay, who were both evident to all the people, and then they accepted the Torah, okay, and then they accepted the written Torah, but not entirely, not in a perfect fashion that they accept the oral tradition. It was only in the time of the Megillah Esther, Mordechai, when they actually ended up finally accepting completely the oral Torah as well,
Yeah.
into the same capacity. Okay.
Yeah.
But in that story, they didn't. Hashem was not evident. They only had Moshe, meaning Mordechai.
Yeah.
Now we don't have either Hashem or Mordechai.
It's
Okay. That's number one. Number two, we can't replay the Purim story. The Purim story is not good enough. Where do we end up? Thousands and thousands of years of horror and butchery. Okay? I don't consider that a wonderful resolution. I don't want to replay that shit.
what I mean by replay is that this time around, because again, if we're talking about the fact that we're clearly in a battle against Sofek, which is Amalek. You like talking about gematria. This is the straight up gematria we can see playing out. That this is the tikkun for that. Yeah, you're right. We had that butchery and all the horrible and this and that and the other. If you ask me, man, I think the marshmallow situation is something that's going to come after we resolve this whole crap with Fauci and all the rest of them.
Nah.
Now, I'm telling you, just hear me out as to why I think that's the case. Because after we've done that, we will have been elevated to a level where we can be mekabel the marshmallow man situation, because right now we don't have the vessels for it. I know you want it to be that way. I know you think that. I know that's what
I
you
totally
want.
disagree with you.
We don't. I don't think we have. We don't.
We have the vessels.
We have to. We have to get to that point.
No. We still have the vessels. Like, it's not even funny. The vessels are so ripe for being.
I don't know how you could say that when you see how most of the people who are like learning Torah on a high level can't even see the forest through the trees when you present them with evidence. So what vessels you got?
Listen.
You and I have it. You and I have it. You understand what I mean?
Listen. Do you want to hear the? Is that a rhetorical question?
No. I want to hear. Yeah.
Okay. So. Okay. You don't need the majority of people to understand something. Okay. You need a good, solid, respectable minority of the population. At least the leadership. At least like the I'm not going to say the top tier. Okay, but there has to be a very powerful, like a very good 20% of people to really understand what's going on, because it's that 20% which in every situation historically are always leading the call.
It's the 80-20 rule, or in our case the 20-80 rule.
Right. Yeah. So it's the 20 which lead the 80. It's always been like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and there's no difference now. There's no need for only in this case, when it comes down to the real big resolution, for God to be so unfair that every other situation, 20% can guide the whole situation, but not this time. This time it has to be the 80% to wake up, which will never happen.
Yeah, no, that's okay? True. I agree.
So that's number one. This is not just me. This is the Rebbeim have said this all along. Okay? Thank God. Okay, so I believe that 20, we've passed that 20% by far.
No, for sure. I think at this point it's 40%, only if you count the people who are just silent and afraid to voice their, for fear of losing a job or whatever it is.
Right. So you see protests going on all over the world, millions of people worldwide. My brother spoke. You know how many people have heard my brother?
A lot. Everywhere.
So
yeah, I know.
So, but just to give you a scale.
In what I call the alternate media universe, yes, but a lot of people have heard.
Yeah, the alternate media universe, which is actually the real mainstream.
I know.
So, for instance, Daystar TV is the world's biggest cable network, or network in general.
Yeah.
It is streamed to 2 billion homes worldwide. Daystar TV. Have you heard of this?
Yeah. The guy passed away, I think. The guy that ran it, the Christian guy, right?
It's a Christian. Right. It's a Christian.
He passed away recently. He recently passed away.
Right. Nobody has a bigger voice in the world at this point right now than Daystar TV.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother was interviewed. I was going to say numerous, but I think it was only twice. Okay, and so his interviews were some of the highest watched programming viewership from anything that they've presented in a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. Which it would seem that 1 billion people, that's 1/8 of the world, have actually heard him discuss very, very clearly, very vividly, my brother, right?
Yeah. Of course.
Exactly what's going on. He's not one. He's really, he's not holding back. Thank God. Okay. So that's already a huge amount of people that are aware. Okay. Now, so that ship has sailed. Thank God.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the second thing that I keep talking about, and people perhaps are not entirely ready to take this seriously, which is a shame. Okay, is the stuff that's been going on. Look, if you want to look for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, he's been making appearances periodically, not to the whole world, but to large groups of people, and especially important people, right? But for at least the last 75 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's been appearing to large groups of the most responsible-minded people in any society.
Yeah.
the military officers.
You mentioned this before, yeah.
Okay, so they have the world of Yetzira, right, and entities from it have been interacting with, playing with, kind of like, like squirrels.
Yeah.
You ever see squirrels playing in the trees, like they're chasing each other around, stuff like that?
Yeah.
They've been playing with us like we're squirrels.
Yeah.
Meaning they're also playing.
They're also squirrels. We're squirrels and they're squirrels. Yeah.
Yeah. They've been doing this little dance, this little game where they have shown us like, here we are, here's the Staples Marshmallow Man, and you have one group where 20,000 people saw it, and then you have in Phoenix, 100,000 people saw it, and then you have an entire squadron of fighter pilots who saw it, and then you have an entire.
So here's my question:
battle group. Do you know what a battle group is?
Do you think that this whole media brouhaha over this recent one, over this releasing this information, not just Nimitz, but just in general, like and then the whole thing with the Israeli retired Israeli scientist, whatever it is, you think it's just the media giving us hints that, hey,
he's not retired, by the way.
I know. I'm just saying, just go with me here. Like, do you think this is the media giving us hints that, hey, like, there's gonna be something coming, around the bend that's going to? It's almost like they're telling us, yeah, there is something that's going to mitigate the crap that we're feeding you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, repeat your question. Say it differently.
Why would they make a whole story, a big expose or a big mention about all of this stuff? The Tic Tac, the this, the that. This is like very recent. Why would they mention that? Hey, there's now a law, which actually Trump included in that congressional deal, that they had to release this information, declassify. Why would the media go along with it if this is the very thing that's going to mitigate the crap that they're, that they're orchestrating right now with this faux crap?
Okay, so there's a couple of possibilities.
It's like self-sabotage on their part. You know what I mean?
It's a couple of possibilities. So, number one, there could be internal, like, civil wars, even in the various media groups.
Well, we see that now with this whole Cuomo thing and everything.
Yeah, that's possible. Like, you might have like white hat infiltration.
Did you see, by the way, Jake Tapper of all people, the guy on CNN? He went off. He was like, the MS has to be the paramount thing, and this and that and the other. I'll show you the clip. It's crazy. I was shocked.
And also with Sanjay Gupta, right? Mm-hmm. On Joe Rogan. Yeah. He's like, I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they said that ivermectin.
Yeah,
ivermectin would be a very useful tool.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're playing like the drip drop game, where they admit just enough to not seem like they're complete douche nozzles.
Plausible, right? What is it called? So that they're not culpable. Plausible deniability, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they're saying like, we're not a monolith, right? Like, I don't know why they did that. At CNN, we have various.
We're not Pravda. You see, there's a couple of good people here.
Yeah, we're not all on the same boat, which is of course bullshit, right? They only do that for damage control. Yep. That's number one. Now, so this whole thing, so why would the Pentagon release videos, right? That upon study, you see what they did? They have videos that where if they would release them, it would be beyond reasonable doubt.
It would be irrefutable completely. Yeah.
They're irrefutable completely. They release videos that actually are irrefutable. However, it's not obviously irrefutable immediately upon sight. Yeah. Meaning, if you study the videos and you actually study the movements of those things, you can see how that is impossible according to physics that we know. Yeah. Like out of the three videos, you have this one that looks like, the Tic Tac video, they call it, right? Yeah. Where it's like a little Tic Tac thing looking. It's very like staticky, kind of like grainy, video. Yeah. It's gun camera video. Yeah. Okay, and so you have like this little target that surrounds the Tic Tac, right? Yeah. And then the Tic Tac all of a sudden moves quite, pretty quickly, right, off into the left and disappears out of the video, right? So it's not like in the movies where you snap your fingers at things like, it doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what people don't know is it would look like that if you are standing on the ground stationary.
Yeah.
What they don't understand is that the camera on the plane is so sophisticated, it rotates. You cannot, nobody can escape a gun camera on a modern.
It's true.
On a modern fighter plane.
Yeah.
Okay, that thing moves so fast and it zooms in.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Okay, the fact that thing was able to get out of frame as fast as it did is impossible.
It shows superiority like crazy.
Yes. Okay. So that's the least impressive thing about that video. On top of that, okay, so people, but it's not immediately obvious. So they released videos that they understood that most of the public won't recognize how profound it is what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the kids. It's like the kids you talked about. The Froome kids when you show them, tricks in gematria, they don't even know what they're looking at. They're like, "Why is this special?"
Right. They don't understand. Like, you know what I mean? They don't recognize the other books aren't like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, now what? So again, but why release anything?
Yeah.
Okay, because they understand that something is coming, right?
Yeah.
To what extent, I don't know, and they want to pretend like the ones who kept this information from the public, that's a previous generation.
Yeah.
That
they want to look like the good guys, and they want to look like so they're not blamed for being the pricks.
Yeah, right. So those are bad guys. They're all gone. The smoking man.
Or the ones that hit it, or the ones that hit it were it's not even the previous generation. It's like even in this generation, like the military guys and all these like top secret people. As opposed to us, we're the journalists. We're the ones that are, the journalist's job is to. Give information to the public, and here we are giving information to the public, and look how good we are.
Yeah, we're doing our job, right? So what they do is they release a little bit of information, but it takes effort on the part of the person seeing it to understand what they're seing, a little bit, and they know that most people won't even put in that effort to truly understand what they're looking at. So then it'll go away, and then they can say, no, look, we showed it.
Yeah, they could always come. They could always come back to it. There's a record of it.
There's a record. We tried, right? They didn't seem to care that much, right? Okay, so that's one part of this. Okay, so they're trying to and they're trying to get on top of the narrative.
Yeah.
Okay, so not only are they trying to kind of release this little bit of this information to show people, look how cooperative we are, that we are sharing the truth, and the other videos we're not showing you because it reveals too much of our it's not that we don't want to show you what we captured. It's that the technology behind how we captured it is a security risk. That if Russia knew how we captured it, we were revealing too much
information. That whole thing itself is gonna get us into a freaking World War III.
Right, it's going to give them the edge because if they know how our camera works.
It's just always funny how like militaries, countries are afraid to, give, let's say these guys are afraid to give these guys the edge when in it's almost like, I want to make a mushel to like tennis, right? Like before. Roger Federer, Roger Federer is like one of the greatest tennis players I ever played. Before he came along, this is like in the year like 2099, there was a bunch of these like fairly kind of, I don't want to say mediocre players that were playing against each other, but the landscape, there was a transition period going on in tennis, and there was like this kind of landscape of like, some of these guys were leaving, and then you had this whole like kind of transition period where you had a lot of these kind of mediocre guys who were like number one player for like a couple of weeks. Why? Because no one could hold on to the mantle because they were mediocre. You know, one guy won this tournament, another guy won this. There was no like dominant. And then like Roger Federer came along and just like wiped everybody with superior firepower and intelligence and finesse and this. And I feel like these people, they're trying to hide secrets from each other, military, this, that, you know, America, Russia, da da da. And it's just like so futile because they're just gonna come along this freaking tic tac thing, and it's just gonna be like, you guys are playing with sticks. You silly geese. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, they already know that.
So what are they doing? They're just playing with their balls?
No, listen, it has more to do with the Tic Tacs than with these guys. That's kind of that's the wild card.
I understand that. So what is this whole flexing of like, what is this whole Putin? I'm gonna put 100,000 troops on the Ukraine, and then China. I'm gonna go over here to Taiwan, and then this I'm gonna go over here, and everybody's putting chess pieces. It doesn't matter because now the Tic Tacs are gonna come and just override this whole situation.
I have a part of a working theory.
Okay.
Okay. Now, as we know, nations have ministering angels. Mm-hmm. We understand that ministering angels are these Yetziratic entities.
Yeah.
Okay? These Tic Tacs are related to that somehow. They're, you know,
yeah.
they kind of phase in and out from our reality into the Yetziratic reality. Okay? Okay. So the origin of these Tic Tac things, you know, from a step-by-step process is from these Yetziratic entities. These ministering angels. Ministering angels are, each one has their own nation, their own national power. Okay, so, and as we know, the angels, they war with each other. Mm-hmm. They're factions. Okay, when we say Kaddish, right? Yeah. Let there be peace in the heavens, you know, and peace, and peace between us. What is it like? How do you finish off Kaddish?
We say shalom
yes.
Shalom aleinu.
Translate that. Make peace.
Make peace.
Say shalom bimromov in the high places.
In the high places, shalom aleinu between us.
And between us, which means
and all of Israel, and we say
and all of Israel. And we say Amen. Yeah. So the peace in the high place it is referring to the peace between those entities. Yeah. And when there's peace between those entities, then there will be peace between us.
Yeah.
Okay. So these countries like Putin, the United States, China, and all the countries really, right? They have their own faction that they're connected to.
Yeah.
Okay? And the factions have not yet stopped fighting. Okay, so so when we're seeing actions from these, you know, from countries, we are seeing that we're still seeing unresolved conflicts between the Tic Tac
between the ministering angels.
Yeah. Okay. So that's probably what's going on. Okay. Now Mashiach will come, and he will stop them. He will, and then he will take them, and they will become his army.
Yeah.
You understand? That's what has to happen. Okay? That's part of that merciful, you know, God, you know, he's activating the attribute of mercy.
It's like when you hear in the Shema, or in Mariv, it even talks about it, or, you know, in different places, Tzebaot. The legions.
Right. So
the legions.
Tzevakot.
Tzebaot, like Tzivas Hashem.
But we don't say it. That's like, we don't pronounce it, but we say Tzevakot.
Okay.
As a, you know, like we say Elohim instead of Elo, right? So Hashem Tzevakot, right? That's is Hashem, master of legions, correct?
Yeah.
That's how people think that's actually where Ares came from.
Yeah.
When worshippers of Ares, like we're reading about, like the Spartans, right? so they realized that they took one of the names of God, or one of the ways in which he acts, and they turned that into their primary god.
They were friends of the Spartans were friends of, what is it, the Maccabees, right? There's the whole thing with the story.
Yeah, we read it. We read it in
Yeah.
one of the Hanukkah episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hashem, right? So he is ultimately the master of legions. Okay, but so there's going to be that fighting has to stop. Mashiach will come and he will tame them and say enough. Okay, God sent me. It's enough. Now you guys do what I say. Okay, so the fact that we even see anything related to the Yetziratic plane, or even stuff between our plane and the Yetziratic plane, right? There's like that gray area, that space where the tic tacs fall into. Okay, is already that's already the toes of the marshmallow man.
Yeah.
Clearly, like it's in the fucking news, man.
Yeah.
You understand? So we have this. So the point is, this whole conversation was, do we have the vessels? Yeah, we got the vessels. They're very old vessels already. This has been going. These vessels have gone mainstream since 2017.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are so ready. We don't need to wait. We don't need any big. See, this part of the mental effing that we get from hanging out with Litvish guys. You know, they're still, because they could never look at the Rebbe, right?
Yeah.
They're still just paddling in place.
Yeah.
On the echo of the past.
Yeah.
Okay, and they ignore important things. They ignore the writing on the wall.
They ignore the writing on the wall because they're stuck in this hashkafic. How should I put this? You know, they're stuck on the whole thing of like, oh look, there's a bunch of people that say he's this and that, and he's not this, and he's not that. Look.
Instead of actually studying what he said.
Yeah, instead of studying what he said, they're like stuck on the follower movement and the halachic ramifications and problem that might cause, and this and that, and not eating the heksher, and they can't invite people to Shabbos, and they can't eat daven in a minyan, and then we have to be so medayik, and just focus on the realness, man, of what he said and what he did, instead of your stupid halachas and your hashkafa.
Hashkafa, right? That's
Staffen my shkafen, bled.
Yeah,
you know what exactly. I'm saying?
Right. So it's too much. So it's the tribalism. It's the tribalism.
Dear Lord.
It's a very tragic.
Honestly,
thing.
I think that's a bigger problem than this mind virus shit. To be honest with you, man.
That's part of the mind virus.
It
obviously.
is. I know. Terrible.
That's that's one of the worst. That's one of the worst vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's been that's been like an ongoing issue. I think. But let's also come on. Let's admit it has. It has gotten better.
It has gotten better, okay?
Yeah. Remember, like Rubashkin was a big.
It was a big boon for people to realize. You know what, man? There's a let's all it's a halacha. A Jew, a Yid, is released from prison. You must rejoice as a collective, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
My friend was in 770. My friend's like a person. I guess you can call him culturally a Litvak, even though he's not, technically. But he grew up in Flatbush. He went to Litvak yeshivas. But dude, he was. I was in Israel when Rubashkin was let out, and he told me he went to 770 because we lived in Crown Heights at the time. He's like, dude, I've never seen anything like this. People came from all over Brooklyn. People who never stepped foot in 770. You never see them in 770. People who have hashkafic issues with 770 came to 770. It was Achdus Shebe Achdus. That day.
Yeah.
It was
that alone.
It was insane.
That alone, that day alone, was enough of tshuva.
Yeah.
And enough. There was enough unity, achdut.
Yeah.
And to do a tikkun on all the sinas chinam that there ever was.
You know what's funny?
Alone,
I was always saying, why do we always have achdus? Because of we had achdus because of the boys that were taken. This was the moment where we had achdus over something that was a positive, a good thing that happened. And it wasn't just. I'm telling you, I was surprised. I was like, I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, a bunch of Lubavitchers are gonna celebrate, and that, dude, the guy was like, there was a lot of opinions even in the film world that this guy, was like a, whatever. Okay, yeah, he did the time. He should have gotten 7 years, not 20. Okay, like, but he did something illegal. People were upset. That he made a little bit of a Hillel Shem by doing what he was doing. He tried to escape with a bag of money, whatever it was. But in the end, dude, it was every type of Jew on that. And I don't know. For me, I automatically I called it like Balta Bashishim of Mashiach. That day. To me, it was like 1/60th of Mashiach moment.
Dude, the point is, it's so all this talk. Whenever I hear somebody say, "Oh, we haven't suffered enough," or "We didn't fulfill the Midas Hadin yet," and all this kind of crap, is I can't listen to it anymore.
Yeah,
it's so false.
Yeah,
that there's no possible way. So it's better to say, like the Rebbe said, there's no way of, you're not going to figure this out.
Yeah.
The answer is not available.
Yeah.
We should be already redeemed. The answer is not available. Don't even try. Okay? The Rebbe said that 30 years ago. Okay? Probably more. Okay? So I think a big part of it is stop trying. Stop trying.
Yeah.
Like let those old echoes just fade away.
Yeah.
And just as soon I really feel as soon as they stop with that bullshit, then we're going to see something.
Yeah.
So again, we should just kind of, we talked about so many things. So can I quickly summarize?
Yeah. But it's all really one thing,
The important takeaways, right? Just to kind of have some kind of organization and thought. There are people that we're seeing who there's no other explanation for why they're being so stupid. Smart people, right? Who know how to think, who are intelligent, but when it comes to the schmacks, they are complete zombies, right? So the only explanation for that that I can see, and perhaps you agree to it to some extent, is that this is a spiritual phenomenon, and it most likely has something to do with the ministering angels, which are Yetziratic beings, and Mazikin, which fall into their jurisdiction, let's say, of the ministering angels, are these entities which are kind of like hyper intelligent, like predatory animals, okay, which feed on energy signatures, meaning they find their prey through energy signatures. The energy signatures are connected to people doing things and thinking things that we are warned not to do or to think. When you do activities and you let your mind go to places where we're told we shouldn't do, what we're doing is we're sending a bat signal to these entities, come and eat from us. That's one of the primary reasons why we are told to stay away from certain types of thinking and activities. As I'm saying this, I'm literally thinking about stuff I shouldn't be thinking about, by the way. Yeah. Okay, I'm not speaking from a pedestal over here. Yeah. Okay, I'm speaking as a cow.
What should I put it? As a habitual line stepper.
I'm a habitual line stepper.
That's just the way Rick. That's how. That was the ebb and flow. I had to whip his ass.
Yeah, to whip his ass.
He got out of line.
Right. So kind of like So these things, they're kind of like spiritual tapeworms or whatever, but they're not in your gut. They're in a dimension that is not, that you can't see. Okay. Mm-hmm. What they're taking from you is life force energy, which we refer to as nefesh. Yeah. Okay. It's the basic currency of all of the created world. Yeah. Okay. And so that's what they're taking. And while they're doing that, they are creating a corral for us, okay, where they supply certain things that give you momentary, transient enjoyment,
Yeah.
right? But the process of giving you that keeps you locked in a very low state of consciousness. And the longer you're in that state of consciousness, the deeper you get into it.
Yeah.
And the easier it is to control you and to corral you, so they could keep feeding off of you.
Again, it's the rat maze with the water spout and all the things a rat needs.
Right. Okay. Exactly. So they keep you in this sweet spot where they keep you alive, just alive enough so that they could keep milking you, but not too alive where you can do anything about it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's an ingenious like system. Okay. The only way out of that system is to ask the creator of everything, please get me out of this.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is once he gets you out of it, he leaves you alone, and where you get lonely and bored, and then you immediately go back to to the old habits because it's psychologically stressful to be on your own.
Yeah.
Okay. You feel abandoned. Okay. Like you have your moments with God, right? And then all of a sudden it feels like he's not there anymore. That feeling is that presence. Okay? And I blame him for that. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if it's helpful. I don't know how helpful it is to the situation, but whatever. I'm not sure. So the only way out of it is to constantly ask for God to get you out of it. Okay? And the best thing to do probably is to, once he gets you out of it, to never stop that conversation with God. Be like, okay, God, what should I have for lunch? Okay, should I have pepper or should I have salt? So everything that you go through life where you think that you're on your own, put God into that. And then that way you are basically forcing him to always hang out with you.
Yeah.
Which is what he wants ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay? And that keeps the these spiritual vampiric chupacabras away.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them, Wendigos.
Yeah.
Barmaliers, whatever the hell. Baba Yagas.
Yeah.
So it keeps them basically at bay. Okay. So that's what he wants. That's definitely what God wants to see. Now, in terms of ending this whole shebang, this whole system, period, we already have the vessels for that. Okay, they've been around for a long time. Okay, and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man has been poking his finger into our dimension for publicly for the last 5 years at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just waiting for that big fluffy hand to kind of push through it and punch a big hole through it so that we could actually see, we could actually get a glimpse of the other side.
Listen, in the words of Rabbi Kessin, let's see what happens.
We'll see.
This is what he tells me all the time. We talk about this. We talk about we were talking about he and I always talk about the Israeli elections and this and that. Let's see what happens, because ultimately, even Rabbi Kessin gets it. Well, it's not that he gets it wrong. It's just that he was probably right. It's just that there's this wonderful thing called free will, supposedly, allegedly, where people, where people literally don't. We know the stories of the Tanakh where people didn't listen to the prophets or the people who were advising them with some Ruach HaKodesh, and we see what happened as a result of that. In that case, in his case, but we'll see what happens. Listen, it could be that you're entirely right. I happen to think it's not. I mean, you're probably right that we do have the vessels. We have enough people with enough vessels, but I think that it's there's going to be I don't know. That's just my gut feeling. There's going to be a preliminary stage of just. I mean, it's gonna happen derech hateva, but it will be miraculous in its how should I put this? Not unexpectedness, but there'll be miraculous things that will happen, but derech hateva. Just like I think that, what is it, the splitting of the sea was miraculous. And it seemed like, from what we hear, from what we understand, that natural law got suspended. But I think it happened derech hateva in a miraculous way, if that makes any sense, what I'm saying. Like you've had
Yeah,
these,
because
you've had
the
these
ultimate
events in your
truth.
life where it looks like it's like an open miracle, but it's still derech hateva. It's still something that happened by all kinds of natural machinations. It was just the way that it happened was like eye of the needle, derech hateva.
Look, derech hateva,
Low
right?
probability event. Let's put it that way.
There's teva that we are not familiar with.
Sure.
If that's what you mean, then I'm all for it. Okay.
It's teva we're not familiar
if
with,
we
but it also could be teva that is, how should I put this? Teva that's can happen even by teva, but that hasn't happened yet in front of our eyes. Let's put it that way. But when it happens, scientists and media people will say, "Well, of course that makes sense because of ta 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 and this effect in the atmosphere and ta 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 ta." We've just never seen it before because it happens once every bazillion thousands of years. But it happened now, and we're going to observe that as a miracle. According to mathematics, it's a miracle because it's again
dude. According to the Torah, a miracle is anything that seems that people are not, that does not seem to be a regular part of daily of the daily experience.
Daily life.
Okay, so that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if it's discovered that it was Teva all along, I don't give a damn.
So no, I know. That makes total sense. That makes total sense.
Okay, but I want to see the type of Teva that we've never seen.
Listen, B'ezrat Hashem.
That's what I'm looking for, okay? Because the teva, the al derech teva, what people most of the time refer to, is so staggeringly horrible.
So here's my question: If we see it the way that you're describing it, is there going to be justice or visible, like what your brother talks about, lining, Mousy and other people?
I don't give a damn about that.
No, I because you know what? No, because that's important. Because you know what?
Let God take care of that. You understand that the only reason that I want a Godfather Mousy at this point is because I'm angry that I'm in this situation, and he's just a little he's a peon. He's a little gear in a very, very big mechanism.
If anything, I think at this point he's just being kind of not put up, but he's being ordered by someone else, which is why every time you see him talking at Congress, when he's supposed to be looking at Rand Paul, he's looking to the left and to the right for validation of his overlords in the Democratic whatever.
Listen. Justice, that's for God.
Yeah.
Okay? That's very important to God. What's very important to me is the end of death and suffering and separation. If I don't get relief from death, suffering, and separation, then I'm gonna look for a consolation prize, and then I can get 1 second of satisfaction from seeing those scumbags hanging in the wind. But that doesn't. But immediately I get back to my dark reality of death, agony, and separation.
Which is why, it makes sense what you're saying, because the clearly the Nuremberg trials and clearly the Eichmann trials, it gave us.
What did it give us?
It gave us temporary whatever, and then after that we just went back to and Israel went back to the same bullshit with the Kastner thing, and the same bullshit with hating religious people, and the same taking Yemenite kids, doing stuff that as bad or worse than the people they just put on trial. So it didn't give us jack hell of a shit. Pardon my language.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. That's for God.
It gave us it gave us a nice show to make movies of Jewish movie of the week, or the Israeli Film Festival whatever movie about this guy who filmed the Eichmann trial. He was sent by Hollywood to film the flippin' do. You're such a good Jew. Do a mitzvah. Right. Keep Shabbos, dickwad.
Right. If you told me that you can hang Eichmann 2 million times,
Yeah.
maybe that would give me some level of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because he's responsible or contributed highly to the death of 2 million Jews.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't hang him enough. There's no amount of hanging that's going to bring back those people.
Especially since what's his name, Streicher, was the guy that said Purim Fest. So it's one of those things where like you understand that these people know who they are, they know their role in they know what is it called? What incarnation they occupy, I guess you could say. And it doesn't even matter because they know that they're going to return anyway. The guy said Purim Fest 1946 as opposed to Purim Fest 2022 that's coming. Whoop-de-doo.
It's exactly. Here's what basically what it comes down to is people throughout history, they have never looked at the hand wielding the stick. The stick is the Nazis. The stick is Fauci. The stick is Bogdan Khmelnytsky. But the hand wielding the stick is God.
Yeah.
And people don't want to look at the hand because they don't want to be they don't want to be mad at God.
Yeah.
Because people want to have a loving relationship with God because especially people who have cultivated a relationship with God. Right? That's the only thing that really matters to them, and their last refuge of sanity and of some kind of mental peace, and they're not going to attack God. They're not going to bite that hand or try to bite it.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not advocating for biting the hand, but basically the result throughout history has always been God using Bogdan Khmelnytsky, and then when the stick is finished, we tear the stick to pieces.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I say
like a dog.
Enough with the stick.
Yeah.
Let's just look at the hand and say, God, that hand of yours has been smashing us to bits, and we're not looking at the stick anymore. We're looking at you. Stop it.
Yeah. We're done looking at Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah, and beating our chests like Bennett. Oh, look, I destroyed this thing in Syria, or we're sabotaging this, and I'm a big man of Sayeret Matkal. What a loser.
So,
what a freaking loser.
So basically, the hand and the stick, mashal has been used for a long time, but usually the rabbis would say that means remember who's holding the stick. That means we deserved it.
Yeah.
So the response should be, let's do tshuva.
A lot of secular right-wing Israelis get so upset. I've mentioned that to them, this whole stick thing, and they're like, what do you mean?
No, but hold on.
Of course, what are you going to pray Hamas away?
But listen, the difference between what I'm doing right now and what the traditional approach is that instead of doing tshuva and start to flagellate ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Is to say, God, we're not going to get better than this.
Yeah.
If you want this to continue, you're just going to have to do us a favor.
Yeah.
Give us a break from this system. Let's just move on. Okay? We're tired of getting beaten by you with various sticks.
We get the point. We got the point, Hashem.
Which is a kind of a tshuva, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you're engaging God, right?
Yeah.
Because when people say, "Oh, do tshuva," it feels like that's like looking away from God in certain sense. It's like
I'm
you're
going to
looking
go into
to
my
yourself.
little halacha corner and keep my little halachas, and maybe God will see me, and maybe I'll have a relationship with Him as I don't talk to Him at all and go into my little halachas.
Right, and myself, in beating myself.
And freaking, it's like Opus Dei, like the Catholic, the guy that takes the whip and beats the shit. Like, what a loser approach. I'm telling you, I always thought that, but I never had, like, the language to be able to say it, only because, like, how dare I say it, because the rabbis and my people who taught me Torah know maybe more than me, and maybe there's something I don't understand. Maybe I didn't read enough Hashkafa books. Maybe I didn't read enough Mesilas Yesharim. Maybe I didn't read even even Tanya.
It's not. You know what it is? See, people who live in the base medrash, the base medrash is like a little cocoon, a little bubble, which allows people to retreat into a world where they live in this kind of like.
It's like Yonah in the Kikayon. He just hides from Hashem.
It's no.
You know
it's
what I'm
a little
saying?
bit different. It's a
Under
little bit
the
different.
what's it called? You know.
It's a world. It's a very Aristotelian world of principles. You understand?
Yeah.
That are devoid of like.
It's like Shaolin, the way.
No, what it is, it's like they talk about ideas and concepts, right?
Yeah.
Which exist, which are real, okay? But there's no smell to it.
Can I tell you
There's
something?
no-
The only
there's no
ones that I
meat,
know,
there's no blood dripping from the meat.
the only ones you get the smell from of the real deal are like say the Roshi, the people who founded, these places. These are the only, like like the Rebbe, like Moshe Feinstein, the Rebbe, all these kind of people. But the Talmidim already, it's already just like, again, I saw it with where I went to yeshiva. It's just a frumness contest.
It's a hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical. It's a frumness contest. I'm gonna out frum you. It's got nothing to do with God is not there. There's no God there. There's just frumness. I'm gonna be more frum than you. I know how to steig better than you. I can do this, but I can say. I can what is it called? Do the zimun good in front of 50 guys, and you screwed it up and.
I don't know.
Ha ha ha.
That is something that occurs. I wouldn't say it's most of the people, but it's there's a certain amount, and it is noticeable.
It's there,
unfortunately.
man. It's really there, especially with the Bali Tshuva guys, which is like.
Yeah, that's like a separate issue. What I was really trying to say was, I couldn't find the words. What I'm saying is, they live in a intellectual kind of sphere where they where you can talk about these things philosophically and in concept. Mm-hmm. It's almost like theoretical mathematics, theoretical physics.
It's not applied.
There's a big difference between thinking and calculating black holes and being near one.
Yeah.
Okay? There's a big difference about talking midat hadin and seeing children burning. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Like you said, there's what the rabbis talk about, which is, what is it, Sesame Street, and then there's like reality, which is
5 X's, 7 X's.
Yeah.
Not just triple X.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's like snuff videos. That's what it looks like. Okay. So, and then to talk about it like it's some kind of, and then when the discussion of those things seems like it's being done in some kind of like sterile, removed by many stages environment, like, you have these little like, discussions, like, like some lady, God forbid, she lost her son, horribly. Mm-hmm. And then, somebody says to her, yeah, but would you have not been, aren't you happy that you had the time with him in the first place? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, would you, if you had the choice to say, to say to God, would you want to take away the time? Yeah. Are you happy? Would you hope that it never happened in the first place? Like, putting someone into that mental space is just insane. Yeah. Okay? Look, I don't want to shit on the rabbis. Yeah. They are just people. They're really trying their best. Like, I have to remind myself, like, these are people who are stuck in this situation too. What you're seeing is a person who's trying to also just work it out.
Dude, can I tell you something? Well. Remember that Syrian guy who lost like most of his family except for maybe his wife in a fire?
I can't think about it and function.
No. So listen. So what I noticed when that happened, right? I was kind of a recent Baal Tshuva. So what happened was, All I heard from like people who I knew, like Russian people, ой, какой ужас, ужас, right? And I was just like, you idiots, uh, I was going on about like, oh, now, but you see, now this guy is like, he's doing lecture tours and he's talking to people, he's mahazing people, and Hashem doesn't give you a test you can't pass. And then as time went on, I was like, you know what? It is ужас. It's an ужас. It's a horrible punishment. Who gives a fuck about those lectures? Who gives a fuck about those Talmidim that he gave lectures to? I don't give a fuck. I want him to get his family back. Это ужас. Yes, ужас, блядь. He didn't deserve it. And there's Russian people that saying, he left his blechan, and it was a Hil Hashem because it was like, it got people to think that leaving a blechan is bad, that you shouldn't leave a blechan, and you're going to have a fire, and it created this whole, bad look for Torah Judaism, that people leave blechan and cause fires.
Remember, that's the reaction of a brutalized, traumatized, emotionally people.
Yeah, I know.
So don't be too hard on them.
I know, I'm not hard on them. It's totally justified. Yeah, it's totally justified. And this guy is a broken man. You saw him talking to these Talmidim. He's a fucking broken man. And I wouldn't wish, that it's terrible. It's freaking terrible. Это ужас. Это да ужас. And why would Hashem do that to a person like that who dedicated his life to Torah? What the fuck? Nahui. Pardon my language.
It does not make any sense.
What is he, Rabbi Akiva? What is he? He has to burn in flames with wrapped in Torah? Кто он такой? Он никто. This guy. Это ужас. Да. Whatever.
Yeah. So that's that's instead of retreating into some kind of hypothetical world of like Midat Hadin and Midat Harachamim and all this kind of stuff, which does exist. It is real. Okay? But, we have to just ask God, please, can you suspend this system?
Yeah.
Can you switch off the program, reprogram it?
There used to be this woman, you remember on the infomercials, Stop the Madness, with the diets?
Yeah.
You scream, stop the madness, end the madness. Yeah. So,
exactly. Susan something or other.
Yeah, whatever, with the short hair. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then there was that Israeli guy with the scrubbing thing. I remember.
Scrubbing thing?
He's like some weird Israeli guy, but he was like American, but he's like actually originally from Israel. Selling it's like a squeegee thing. I don't know, some kind of a weird, whatever. I don't know why my mind just went into infomercials.
Because the mind is looking for relief.
Yeah.
And when the mind looks for relief, the mind goes to various gradations of porn.
Okay, in this case it wasn't porn, it was just comedy, but okay.
No, that's porn. That's porn.
It's like mind porn. Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Porn is like a fantasy world which gets you away from looking at
it just means random stuff. It doesn't have to mean anything sexual. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But for the most part it is sexual. It ends up being that.
Listen, they say unfortunately 75% of the content on the internet is that. It's crazy, man, when you think about that. And most of those companies are owned by Jews.
Stop it. Can you stop doing Farrakhan's job for him?
It's not Farrakhan's job.
It's not true. It's not true, Greg.
Okay.
It's not true. It's not. The vast majority of everything is not done by Jews.
I know, but the most lucrative ones are the biggest ones are.
No, it's not. No, that's not true.
Okay.
There's the truth. You know why it seems that way? It's because even if one Jew is involved in any of that, it's so staggering because we're not. Because we're supposed to be. The whole world knows we're supposed to be the opposite of that. Yeah. Okay. So even if one Jew does that, it looks like half the Jews do it because the impact is so obvious. Okay, so on that respect, but it's not really the majority.
Yeah.
It's the vast minority. Okay? Most of the porn is from Europe. Okay? And, like the European stuff is crazy. And even in America, look, most of Hollywood is not Jewish. People are shocked to hear that.
I know. Even the guys whose name is Norman Jewison is not even Jewish. You know this guy, right? This
Yes,
producer,
I
Norman
was shocked by
Jewison.
that.
He's not Jewish.
Yeah, I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
You know, like what's his name? Cameron, James Cameron.
Yeah.
Not a Jew.
Yeah.
Biggest guy in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot. You know,
Yeah.
Milos
Milos Forman.
Forman.
Yeah, the chef guy.
There's most of these guys. Okay, so look, the point is that Jews do make up according to proportion, right? We should be like 0.00001 of anything, right?
Yeah.
The fact that we're like 2% or 5% of anything is so shocking because it's so vastly we're overrepresented based on in proportion to our numbers, right?
Yeah.
But still, the vast majority of all this shit, thank God, isn't Jewish.
Yeah.
Not that you know that doesn't. By the way, that's good, but at the same time, it's not good when anybody does this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Jew or not Jew.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one of those things where, like, okay, fine. Let's say no Jews are involved in it. It still exists. It's not good. On some level, it doesn't matter who's doing it. You know?
Yeah.
But
speaking of which, I want to maybe close off with this. You heard that we keep looking around and seeing in the media, and we just see one. It seems like there's one horrible thing after the other, and you're wondering when we're going to get a respite. So today, that woman that Biden nominated to be like the head of the banking.
I saw that.
And she's like a bona fide commie. So she basically withdrew the nomination, and because they just were like, she's a straight up commie. Even the Democrats weren't going to pass her. So a friend of mine wrote, he's also kind of tapped in on some level, and he goes, I hoped Hashem would sink her, the Soviet spy, down. I said a few times, Hashem, I can't believe you're going to tolerate a bizayon of such proportion. You know? It seems like Hashem is now finally releasing the grip.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. You know, the Como brothers seem to be out of the picture.
And CNN is actually waking up, and what's his name? Jake Tapper is like talking about MS.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to look at that as something positive.
At least he's talking about it openly. At least he was very emotional. He was mamish emotional. He was like,
I don't know. But I'm not going to say it's impossible. It's very difficult for me.
But at least the commie didn't get into.
Right. So that's what I was going to say.
At least the commie didn't get to ruin my crypto investments, which he actually was going to do.
Right. That was the two things that I've seen recent days, where the Como brothers are gone, and the commie, and then also there's a couple of Supreme Court. There's a couple of judges that overturned, vaccine mandates. Yeah. And stuff like that. So there's, there's a couple of things, a couple of little things, but still, I don't those are nice, but I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for the end of death, suffering, and separation. Yeah. Nothing is gonna satisfy me until that. That's the minimum. Yeah. It's the least that God can do to end death, separation, and agony.
Yeah.
Can I before I know you wanna close this off, but because this is episode
24.
24. Can I say a 24 thing?
Yeah.
And if you can think of a 24 thing, then please. So, I had a 24 thing.
I mean, it's just 12 times 2, so then 12. You got the 12. Well, actually, it's 13 tribes, but really, depending, who's counting.
Okay, what about that?
No, it's Tom. Just 12,
12 times 2?
12 tribes, and then you got the 12 2, it's 24.
Well, why not 3? 12 times 3, you got 36.
Well, yeah, but that's...
We'll save that for episode 36.
That'll be 36, and those 36 hit into Deacon, whatever.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then you have
36 lights of Hanukkah.
Yeah, and then you have Rabbi Pinchas Winston's 36.org, which talks about...
Yeah, but that's the 36 lights. 36 that he talks about is the 36 hours of the Or Haganus that shined for the first 36 hours of Adam's life.
Yeah.
So basically, but the 24.
Mm-hmm.
So I had there are 24 books in Tanakh.
Nice.
Okay, I have to figure out how that's counted. Okay, because when I tried to count it, it seemed like there was more than 24. I don't know if that counts ketuvim. Okay, I have to figure out how, but it's supposedly 24. I think certain books of Tanakh, the way that they're organized, you know, from the Torah perspective, it amounts to 24. Okay, I think like certain prophets are included within other books of the prophets.
It's like part of its
right, and like there, and for instance, like there is no book of Shmuel 1 and 2. There's just the book of Shmuel. And there's only the book of Kings, right? Instead of Kings 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then there's
that's already just divisions for our purposes,
Yeah. And then the book of Chronicles, that's one Divrei Hayam, not two. Right. So I have to figure out how, but I know that when it's counted correctly, there are 24 books of Tanakh.
Yeah.
Hebrew scripture. So that's a big 24.
Yeah.
Okay. There were 24,000. We kind of talked about 24. Remember when we were talking about like the whole the saga, the Odyssey of Rabbi Akiva's neshama until he ended up in Rabbi Akiva and his 24,000 students.
Yeah.
Remember there was the 24,000 men of Shechem.
Yeah.
That were annihilated by Levi and Shimon, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a high likelihood that there were actually 24,000 men with Esav when he came to confront Yaakov, because there's a very good chance. I haven't found the perfect source for that yet, but there were four. It says that there were 400 men, right? But then in the commentaries, it says there are commentaries that say, I think among them the Kli Yakar, I'm not sure, say that each of those 400 men was not just a simple man. Each was a captain of an entire group of men.
Yeah.
So each one of them had each one of them had 60 men. So let's do the calculation. I want to make sure I'm getting that right. So 400 times 60, what is that? Is that 24,000? I think so. So 4 times 6.
What is it again? What's the numbers?
So in the pasuk it said 400 men that Esav was with, and then I've seen commentaries where it says that each, I believe it would seem possible that each. The commentaries say that each one of those 400 men was a captain who had a large number of men with him. If that number was 60, which is a good possibility, because that was a common number.
Yeah.
In a unit in those days.
Yeah.
Okay. So if each of those 400 men had 60 men underneath him, right? And right, that would be 24,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got so that, let's say, so it's at least a good possibility that those are 24,000 men. Okay. And then you had the 24,000 men of Shevet Shimon. Well, when they had the whole situation with the Midianite women, right? With the Midian, Midian and Moab, right?
Yeah.
And then Pinchas, right? So it was 24,000 men of Shevet Shimon that died in a plague as a result of that, because it's those same neshamas over and over again. Okay, and then you had. The next time they manifested, it was the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was the last time they got their tikkun on Lag Bomer.
Yep.
Okay, so that's 24, and there's a whole bunch of other 24s embedded into the cosmos itself, into like the sacred geometry of the world. And if I wasn't dead tired, I could remember some of it, but. Anyway, so that's 24. Now, there was a 23, which I wanted to talk about yesterday, because it was episode 23. So Tolia, right? The shofet, Tolia. Okay.
The guy playing the accordion keyboard on the keyboard at 2 o'clock in the morning at a Russian restaurant.
If Tolia shows up and he hears you saying that, he might kick your ass. Okay.
He'll be like, "Svoloch, blядь,
and he will show up. Do you realize that?
Of course he will.
have you ever sat there and thought,
Yeah,
like, holy crap, these people are coming back.
I know.
You're going to, Yiftach
Yeah.
is, you're going to be able to see, you're going to be able to say what's up to Yiftach if you want to. But it's technically possible.
Yes.
You're going to be able, you're going to be able to, like, do you understand? Can you understand what that means? That, like, you could actually possibly, like, stand somewhere and Moshe Rabbeinu could, like, see you, or you could, like, actually see him. Yeah. It's very difficult for me to wrap my brain around that.
Yeah.
Aaron,
it's difficult, but it's not so difficult because I'll tell you why. You know, have you ever been in Israel during of the funeral or during the passing of a giant Rav?
No.
Dude, I was in Israel when Rabbi Ovadia Yosef passed away. Dude, I mean, how do you fit 1 million Jews into a tiny neighborhood called Geula? And some of them aren't even Orthodox people. They're like taxi drivers that came from Rishon LeZion.
Yeah.
You understand? It's like, and, you know, they keep talking about the rift between the religious and secular and this and that. Dude, you had Haaretz writing articles about Ovadia Yosef where they were a year prior writing like bashing pieces. Hit pieces about what he said about the Carmel and the fires and Shabbos, whatever it was. And then a year later he passed away and they're writing like his biographies on Haaretz articles.
Yeah, like, they want to sell newspapers.
I know. I'm just still no, but like if you're a leftist journalist, you have to take the time to sit down and write research and write a fair, heartfelt piece on the man. And
strange.
And here we are. They were talking about this rift between religious and secular. You know what I'm saying? So like. And in the words of Rocky and Rocky 4, мы все можем измениться. We can all change.
Yeah.
I came and I saw this crowd and they were against me, and then I saw that you were with me.
That speech made no sense at the end
of Rocky 4. It was retarded.
Right. It's embarrassing, kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing. Whatever. So, when you would talk как железо, his face is made of steel.
Right. Он как кусок железа. Right.
Я держу победу.
He didn't say его лицо как железо. He said он как кусок железа.
Как кусок железа.
Yeah.
He's like a piece of steel. It's like, wow.
You know what Rocky should have said at the end of that?
No.
He'd be like, fuck you, commie motherfucker. We came here, whoop your big boy's ass. Okay, it's exactly what we're going to do to you.
Yeah.
All right? If you mess with us. And you should all stop being communists.
Well, you see, they were trying to do this whole, when the movie was made, they were trying to do the whole detente, the whole thing, and then they saw that they're going to,
That's why it was lame.
Reagan is going to collapse them without firing a shot and, leave them without pants and whatever.
No, there's a lot of hidden depth in his speech at the end.
Yeah.
It's just on the surface, it's lame.
Yeah, it's like, at the end of the day, you got to whip his ass.
Right.
Hit you a line stepper.
Yeah, whip his ass.
Not only that,
I gotta practice.
If only for if only for the reason that he killed his friend. And now he's extending a hand. Like, give me a break, man. Just beat the crap out of the guy and go home.
Right. The black dude should have been like, "Oh man, so you forgot about Apollo?"
Yeah.
Rocky, motherfucker. He's like, always forgot about the black man.
Mr. T was right about you in the previous one. You're not a man. Come get a real man.
Right.
He was right about you. You step for the black man. You just beat him up, and then you let him get beat up, and then you talk about
Apollo.
And then you talk about how the killer of the black man could change. Ain't nobody changed.
It's terrible.
That's terrible, man. Ain't nobody changed. Nobody ever changed. Go to the ghetto, you'll see.
Yeah.
ain't nothing changed in the ghetto for 40 years. Everybody's still doing crack.
That's Mr. T. That's what he said in the movie?
No, I'm just attributing what he would say.
That's what he would say. All right.
And then they drug him and get him on a plane.
Yeah, and then he builds an ingenious vehicle,
Yeah.
which can burrow through the earth and surprise the enemy from underneath.
We just turned that boxer into B.A. Baracus in like a heartbeat.
Yeah, man.
And on that note, now we know that it's going to be the Marshmallow Man, because it can happen just like that.
It can happen just like that. That's exactly how it has to.
You can drug everybody, you can get them on a plane, and then they'll wake up, and miracles can happen.
It has to. We have people. It's there. It's the vessels are ready to go.
All right. It's been real. Until next time.
Hopefully, episode 25 will be already in riding on the Marshmallow Man's foot, embedded in a soft, like hammock of marshmallowiness.
Oh man.
All right, man.
All right. Later.